Start recording again. Okay. So we are on Fusion and let's start talking about some of the stuff. So like I said, first, what I want to talk about tonight is file saving, transferring, and a little bit more explanation about cloud storage. So everybody's been playing with stuff. Some people have already been working on models. These look great, by the by. And you've been saving them to our class folder. Now, as I said, we are working on our team account. You have your own personal storage. First thing is, well, I'm going to transfer over to mine and just say, okay, cool. I have this stuff. I've modeled this on my own folders. And because I wanted to do different tweaks, different stuff like that, well, how do I get my files onto our team file, either for sharing, for explanation, or obviously for turning in your assignment? Well, unfortunately, this is one of the things that Fusion has not actually solved yet, as in they haven't actually programmed Fusion to directly transfer or copy or even link your files from one team, your personal team, to another, or different teams, because you can, of course, belong to multiple teams. So unfortunately, the roundabout way of doing that is you have to save a file locally to your computer and then re-upload it to a different team. I know it's not an ideal solution, but it is a solution. So that's what we're going to have to work with. So let's say, all right, I'm going to open this tray that I was working on. I'd like to transfer this over. So what you can do is I just opened up the file. Right-clicking, you can do that too, but realistically, it's easier to do it this way. So open up the file, you go to the file icon, and you can leave the data panel open if you like, it doesn't matter. But just going to the file icon, open this up, and what you're going to want to do is go to save as, not export, not 3D print, load, or anything like that. You're going to save as. Now this is save. Oh, whoops. I mixed that up entirely. I had my brain scrambled on that. You do want to go to export. Sorry, I got two different things we're working on tonight. I got that confused. So you do want to go to export, and you'll see the type. You can change types, but there's no need for that. For what we're doing for now, leave it as a Autodesk Fusion 360 archive file. It'll be a .f3d. This is where you can change stuff if you were transferring different programs, or things like if you wanted to transfer something you were working on in Fusion and go to like Adobe Illustrator or a different CAD program. You can do that, but for what we're doing, strictly staying with Fusion, leave it there. Location, obviously, you're doing stuff on your own computer. There we are. I'm going to save it in that file. Cool. So it will export this file. Yes, I already did it once. So I'll just let it overwrite that. It will give you a pop-up. You can open it directly in your folder. Super duper. Now, you go back to Fusion, and now you change your team. Now you go back to the team you want to bring the file into. This will all reset. You can open the folder you want it to go into. Now, with this data panel open, you go to upload, and you can do this in here as well. If in the actual Fusion layout, upload, it's the exact same thing. Click upload. You can either select the file, or if you already have the folder open, hooray, you can just drag that over. So file, computer desk. This would also be, if you haven't already, make sure to change the name, although you would do this before you do that, because obviously you need to actually change the name, or you can change it once it's uploaded, doesn't matter. But make sure you have your name on it. So it's not just a bunch of everybody has the same badge. Click upload, and it will upload. Now, often enough, you may well see this pop up. Data in this folder has been updated, means people have uploaded things like that. Just refresh. It's the same icon up here, just like you would do anywhere else. Refresh. Okie dokie. This is now in our team folder. Hooray. Now, something changed. When I was in my folder, or my team rather, my computer desk tray had a V2. You expand this, what Fusion will do, and it doesn't do this automatically. It just saves it auto saves automatically. When the user saves your file, it will create a new version. And what that is just like if you were saving on your computer, anytime you would save and you wanted to make a change, like a distinct change, you'd say, all right, well, here's blah, blah, blah. Here's my name, project number 1. You make a change, number 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, as you like. Fusion will automatically do that, so you don't have to make a whole bunch of different files. And you can cycle between them, meaning that with the first one, when I first saved it, I can actually go back and open that version, but it will show you which version you're using. It's automatically going to default to the most current one, but you can bring that to the top by when I open this, by expanding the version tray, by clicking the right bottom hand corner again. When you mouse over, as you'll find that most things in Fusion, if you mouse over them, it shows you stuff. The bottom one, or if you have multiple versions like this camera mount I was working on, you have multiple versions, you'll see an icon. One, you'll have the little file. That's just so you can open the file. But the lower ones, previous versions, it has this little arrow with a bar on top. That will bring that version to the most current. Excuse me. So that's how that can work. So go back to the team, or our shared team. Now, and Rinzing, I'll just I'm not going to open your file, just showing it on the version thing here. You could go back and actually promote those. Now, I'm not the one that was saving these, so you can actually click back and forth between these. So you will have the direct option. It's not my file. You can change that around. But I will go ahead and show you also, if you were to accidentally save to like just the general folder rather than the project folder, it's not a problem. Plenty of people do that. You can just right click on the option itself and just move, and then just select the destination. Remember, you can only move things within the same team. So if I was moving things like copies or something between different semesters to bring examples forward, which I will be doing, I can do that. But you do not have this direct move option between different teams. So your personal stuff and the class stuff. So I'm just going to move yours over, and it just took it out of the main here and plopped it in here. That's all. Okay, so that's how to transfer files between your team and ours, and what the versions do. Now, like I said, looking at mine, I opened up. Now there's only version 1 because it's only going to bring the most current model up. Now, if you did actually want to say you're working on something, but you know what? I think I really want to change some stuff, but I don't want this first one to change. Yes, that's where honestly the best option would be save a new version. So say I was going to make some serious alterations, but I wanted to keep this one available. So then I would go to save as, and then I would do whatever I wanted, call it something else different. So now you'd have two of them. I'll just refresh that. So now you have 2 of them. So now I could make my super alterations to one and leave my original as is. So that's the best way of working with making multiple different files. And you can load this up. So say like you're working on, or you didn't realize you were working in our team folder and you wanted to make multiple versions. That's fine. Yeah, there's no limit to them. Just make sure that you got your name on it so that it doesn't get lost, and we can find it when you need to. I'm just going to delete my second version there. So that's how that works. So let me pause. Okay, resuming recording. So the other thing I wanted to go over tonight, and by looking at the examples, it looks like most everybody has been doing exactly that of what I was going to talk about. And what I was going to say is, let me throw a sketch down real quick because I deleted the examples I was playing with last class. And I'll just make a quick doodle or something. Sure. Weird line thingy. Hooray. Oops. And with a fit point spline, let that connect, blah, blah, blah. Now, say you're working with this, you're going to make multiples. Maybe there's a, oops, I can't do that just yet. Make a construction line because I need that reference. And let's just say I mirror this across that line because you have to have a mirror, or you have to have a line to set the mirror across. Hooray. Now, I'm getting ready to extrude this to make this a actual three-dimensional item. Well, if you had like text going or anything like that, you're going to want something that actually connects everything. And like I said, it looks like many people have already done that. I'll just pick one. Nick, I'm just going to open yours just as a quick example. I'm not going to make any alterations. But what I wanted to explain was one thing you definitely want to look into is making an outline. Now, what profile that takes on, like Nick made a circle, a few other people rectangle. It could be a weird amoeba blob, doesn't matter. But it is a very good idea to connect things with an outline. Now, just for the sake of an additional element, I want to make a circle around here because I'm just going to make some text just because I want that example also. I'm going to turn that into a construction line. I select the line I want and either press X, or in the toolbar, first option, line type, press construction. That just turns that line into a reference line because I was going to make some text. I select text, go to the toolbox, select text on a path. I can select that construction line. That's going to be my text. And blah, blah, blah. Hooray. Let me resize this so people can actually see what I'm doing. Play with font, all that kind of fun. I want it to fit to path. We're good. Now it's all around instead of just apart. Remember, if you're unsure, play with these options. That's always a good idea. But okay. And tell you what, I'll just make it bold so it's a little bit easier to see. All right, so I have text, but if this stuff is floating out in space, you could, of course, extrude all of this, and I'll finish the sketch, show you what I mean. So some of you have already been playing with this, and I know we briefly went over this last class, but you have your two-dimensional sketch. You have finished sketch. It is your toolbar has returned back to its standard tool set. Remember, we are working a solid tool space. If you accidentally worked into surface space, that's okay. It will basically work the same way. We're not really doing anything so involved that it won't change things up. You just won't have as many tools at the toolbar immediately as an option because some of this stuff is not surface driven as opposed to solids where you have all these other ones. But what we're doing doesn't involve them anyway, so no worries. We'll get into the specifics of what the real difference between those is later. But how to extrude, and again, many of you have already done this. Well, the extrude tool is the second default one up here. You mouse over, and as it explains, it adds depth to a closed sketch. Now, remember, a closed sketch will highlight itself in blue. Means it's a sketch that starts somewhere and somehow, in some way, reconnects to itself. Oops, need to zoom in. And anything that is closed will automatically highlight itself in this dull blue. So if I hit extrude, or as it says, a hotkey, anytime there's a hotkey option, it will be next to the title there. So I could also press E, but we'll just select there. Now, you can do multiple extrusions. There's nothing saying you have to do everything at once. So I'm just going to select a few things. I'm not holding down Shift while I do this. It's allowing me to select multiple things. I'm going to select just these areas right now because I want to, I'm actually going to make that, since I happen to make this little other part, I'm going to do that separately. So I can extrude either by grabbing and holding, I don't know what my brain was trying to say there, and dragging this whole thing upwards, or as you see to the right, the numeric option pops up, and you can do that by entering the number you want. Let's say I want it to be 25 instead of 26. It's easier to grab like that. That's fine. Remember, you can taper things. So if I wanted, let's say I want to put a -5 taper on that. That tapers everything inward. A positive taper tapers everything outward. Just something fun to play with. Sure, negative taper. The other options, yes, you can play with a profile plane or doing offsets and things like that. We're going to explore that later. For now, just working with a profile plane. Direction, you could have this go in two different ways. You could have it specifically go in two sides, which means you can select one, and then you can do a different extrusion for the other. So you can have two different measurements. Or if you click symmetrical, it's going to be symmetrical. But for this time, I just want the one side. Okay. Taper, all that. Operation, new body. Yes, I want this to create a new body, meaning remember that a body is a three-dimensional unit within Fusion, and it is made up of sketches. So I click OK. Hooray! Crap, where do my sketches go? Again, those of you that have already been working with this, you figured it out already. You go over to your hierarchy tree and expand sketches. Fusion automatically hides the sketch that you were working on because it assumes you're done with that. You extruded it. You don't need that anymore. Well, joke's on you. I still need that. All right. So that's still there. Now I can add some additional extrusions. So I'll press E again. Now, right now, if you look at the bottom of your screen, your history bar, I have the sketch and I have the icon for the extrude. When I select something else, now right now, as I can select the text and it reads as all one thing, meaning it's all one single sketch. I select that and it is going to move all the text at the same time. It's going to extrude all the text at the same time. We'll just go with 10 millimeter for now. There we go. I'm not going to mess with the tape or anything like that. Creates a new body. Great. Okay. Now you expand the bodies. Oh my God, look at all of these. It has created an individual body for each letter. When you mouse over the letter or over the body icon, you will see your whichever one it is. That case, it's this H here. It will highlight that. Same thing on the not the hierarchy tree. On your time slider at the bottom, now you have two extrusions viewable. You can cycle back between those if it's important to alter that. Right, for right now, it's not. So it does this so that you can alter each one individually if you need. But I'm showing you this because it will be important in a moment. So, all right, all these are floating in space. Yeah, I want this to be one individual thing. Okay, I'm going to start a new sketch, or I could go back and alter the original. It doesn't matter. In this case, I'm going to start a new sketch just so I can play with the history slider and show you a few different things. So I'm going to start a new sketch, go back, select the plane we're working on. God, that gets scrambly. There we are. I'm going to go to the top view so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to just use a circle. That seemed like the popular thing to do. Or actually, I'm going to do something different because reasons. I'm going to use a center ellipse. So I select the center. I select in one direction how far I want that to go. We'll say 300 sounds even. All right. That's an even number for there. Now I select the other direction for the ellipse, and sure, 210 seems reasonable to me. Hooray. All right. Now I've created this additional sketch. Click OK. Finish the sketch. Now I want to extrude to create a base for the rest of this. So everything currently is in the positive numbers. It's going above the construction plane we're working on, which is just this grid. Now I'm going to click extrude. I'm going to select that ellipse, and I want to go negative. Now, right now, look at the toolbox. Right now, the operation says new body. Now I want to go negative because I want it to go downward. You could drag it as well, but I'm just going to do it numerically. Press -10. Now that operation is automatically switched to join. Now what's going to happen is it's going to link all of these parts into one body. When I select OK, bloop, now look at my hierarchy tree. In bodies, it's now all one solid body. So it's just linked all of those. You don't have to do that. If you wanted, and like this is for down the road, if you were working on things, you want to keep things separate for the time being, you most certainly can. But for now, I want that. Okay. Now, I'm working on this. I like where it is, but you know what? I'm kind of bored with the edges. I would like to actually create like a rim on it. Cool. Do I need to start a new sketch? No. Now is when I can go back in history and make alterations. So this is what I wanted to show you. So I can either grab and slide the history slider at the bottom of the page and move that before I made the extrusion. Now, of course, it's already hidden the original sketch, or I could just leave the history slider at current and just mouse over the previous sketch of that ellipse, right click that, and go back and edit sketch. So this is how I go back in. Now it's gotten back to, it's just that flat two-dimensional ellipse. I could either create an additional ellipse and remember what my dimensions are, which they're all still right here. So if I wanted to change those, I can see the dimensions right there. I double click on there. I could change that. You know what? I needed that 215. Press OK. Great. That will, if I hit OK, it's going to recalculate everything. And now that extrusion is 215 millimeters across. But I wanted to do a bit more to it. So let me go back, edit the sketch again. You can go back and forth as many times as you need or care to. I want to use the offset tool because I want to create like just a ridge around the edge here. So I'm going to use the offset tool, which is on the modify section. I select this curve. And again, I can either use the slider to go positive or negative inside, but I went positive just to make it a little bit more space. I don't know, 6 millimeters. I'm just guessing it, whatever. Okay, select OK. Where did my line go? Oh, because I have the history slider pulled all the way forward. Let me move my history slider back, or it'll recalculate in a moment. So oddly, that offset line disappeared. Click OK, snaps forward. That's because it was trying, because it wasn't wanting to preview what I was doing, the change I was making, because it now is segmenting the overall extrusion. Now, if I slide the history slider back before the extrusion's there, go back, edit sketch. Still not there. Okay, I have no idea why I did that. That's very strange. Let's select that again. I'll do 10. Now, there we go. Okay, strange. All right, I have no idea why I did that. All right, so I created this border. There we are. Now, I can't adjust the history slider right now because I'm still working with it. But let's finish the sketch. Pull the history slider. I might get an error button. Or an error. Let's see. No. Okay, good. So it only extruded that circle there, or rather that ellipse, because that's an ellipse. I had not selected that part. All right, so now I need to edit my extrusion. So go back, select that, edit. Cool. Because what I actually needed to have done to do what I want to do is include both sections. Some of you might have found this happen to you. Let me clear out my selection and say, all right, I did this. Great, great, great. Oops, I didn't mean to okay that. All right, so you went through and you selected the ring and you extruded that. Awesome. Oh, crap, it only did part of it. Remember that Fusion will operate on anything it sees and what you do and do not select. So, edit feature, I want both of these. And I have no idea why, but Fusion sometimes will let you keep selecting things. Sometimes you have to do your standard, like click and hold shift and make your selections. So I selected both of those. It let me. Great. Now, this time it automatically changed the operation to new body. I'm going to manually change it to join. It will link everything together. Now all the bodies snap back into one single thing. Great. That is exactly what I wanted. But like I said, I was trying to create a lip. So I just made this overall ellipse just a little bit larger. Now I can go and see it because the sketches are still showing. If I hid the sketches, I couldn't do this. If I was trying to select the top, it would select the whole top. But as I said, Fusion will operate on anything that is visible. Now that ring is there, and see if as I zoom in, now it's letting me select either or. So I want to select just this rim here. And now I'm going to make another extrusion. And I'm going to go up like, I don't know, 3? Sure. Neat. Operation, join, yes. Now it's created this additional ridge there. It's subtle. It's not very large. I might go change that. I think it will. Edit feature. Just so it's a little bit easier for everybody to see. Make it 5. Cool. Okay. So now I have everything joined into one single body, which I can always go and rename, which is always helpful if you're making any adjustments or anything like that. You can rename it just like you do any file. Click and hold, or the select option, and just make badge. Cool. Now, one thing I did not do, and you should do, anytime you start a new project, I forgot to do it myself, save it. Make sure you save it right from the get-go. Because until you save stuff, there's no guarantee that it's going to start automatically saving. Fusion will not start automatically saving until you manually save for the first time. It will do, it is recoverable, but honestly, make sure to save it first. So we'll just put in, or I'll just put in badge example. And I don't know why I pressed equal instead of line. There we go. Now it'll update properly each time. Okay, so cool. I made this little feature. It's not much, but it's something. So I wanted to show you some of the other features you can use. Now, so far, most everybody has been doing really cool designs, and I'll just open the panel up, refresh that because people have been working. But they're all fairly rectangular. That's fine. We haven't gotten into anything yet. So I wanted to show you some of the modifier tools, namely the fillet and chamfer. Difference being you're putting just either a round or a bevel, excuse me, on the edge. And that's of anything. So if you mouse over, it'll show you what you can do or what those do. So fillet puts a rounded edge on stuff. Chamfer puts a flat angular edge on stuff. And this is just a way to add additional features. So let me zoom in, if I ever keep that straight in my head. I zoom in, and I can do this to any of these lines here, these edges. So I'll start a fillet. I can select the top. It'll let me keep selecting parts, but I can also use this to blend other edges. But for right now, I'll just show you this. Yes, you can click and drag, but like I said before, especially if you're working on a computer that isn't as powerful, this is where things start getting to pick up your processing power. So yes, I can click and drag, hold it down, and I'll pull it, and it'll preview things for me. Go too far, it'll give you an error code, that sort. This is where I prefer to start by just adding or just making changes numerically. So I'm looking at this. 5.5 was just way too much, but it's rounded everything out. So I'm going to back it off to say like 4. Okay. It is taking a radius of 4 millimeters around that curve. So this is just like when we worked with the sketches, only now it's doing it to an entire edge. It's rounding over an entire edge. So I could play with this a bit more if I wanted to try and make that actually meet up. So 4.5, yeah, that gets pretty close. Cool. Okay, I'll do that. It has now added a fillet to the history slider. I can also use that to blend edges the opposite direction. And it's going to be a little bit difficult to see. So let me change this to, I don't know, 3. All right. So that changes there. Now say, you know what? I think that looks neat. I press F6 and it resizes. Looks neat. I've got this cool edge, but you know what? Inside, that makes like a really sharp or really harsh edge there. Let's do it again. Fillet, or as it says here, you can press F for a hotkey. And I want to select this internal edge. If I put, let's say 2. All right, error, too much because that's interfering with the previous one. So fine, I'll change it to like 1. There we go. Click OK. Now it has rounded out. See if you can see it very clearly. Let me delete this previous feature. There we go. It'll make a little bit more sense. And edit this one. Take it to like 2. There we go. So it's a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. Oh, not that. I wanted the size to be 2. There we go. So now it is rounding out that inside edge. And basically, in addition to, yeah, it looks fancier, what you're also doing is making less sharp edges to be printed. Now, I'm not saying that that's, at least in this first project, that's not strictly necessary or really has any real weight. But as we progress through the semester, like anything you find around you that has been modeled, anything with a sharp edge, one, it's sharp, but it can be less strong. So putting fillets and rounding corners and such can actually be a way to strengthen some of your prints. Now, most of what we're going to be getting into is not going to be like a actual stressed object. We're going to make like some phone stands and stuff. So yeah, that actually could come into play. We'll address that when we get there, but that will be a thing. So I'm going to go add a couple of features back on here. There we go. And now I have a fillet that's going in 2 different directions. One curving concave, one curving convex. Chamfer, on the other hand, puts a flat edge. So if I select there, use my slider, you see the difference. One is a rounded edge, one is a sharp edge. I'm going to leave that at 4. Sure, why not? Just as an example. So neat elements. They also, yes, they add visual change to it, but they can become structural as well. Can you add that to rounded surfaces and such? Say like, or not necessarily rounded surfaces, but corners and things like that. Totally. I can put a fillet. Now, and I select one edge there selects just the edge. However, and let me clear that out. Oh, I didn't want to clear the whole thing. If I double click that, and that time it's not going to do it at all. Now it will also let you, sometimes you can select the whole edge by double clicking, depends on the tool and also what the angles are. You can also select the whole face. If I select that whole face, it's not just that edge, it's all the things. So if I use a slider, you'll see what I mean. Now it's just automatically selected everything. Now, yes, I mirrored these two, but they were not symmetrical. It's just a mirror, so one doesn't affect the other. But these are just different ways that you can alter the surface. So you don't have just a straight angle or a straight edge. If you want that, great. But these are different ways that you could make changes. Sometimes you're going to run into errors. A fillet will work on a lot more complex surfaces than a chamfer will. Because fillet, you are working with a round object. The program can calculate round surfaces and how they intersect sometimes a little bit easier. Sometimes chamfer will not. So I'll select that whole top there, and I'll do something similar. If I select a whole bunch, now I'm getting just nothing but errors. I'll try to back it off, see if like just one works. No. It's going to give me errors, and you see over here, after the error came up, face edges, this sharp line here, the sharp corner, it has problem. Chamfer has problems with sharp corners. Now, if I were to go back and say, all right, well, let me clear this out, cancel that. What if I just did a couple of these? Say one. Yeah, you can do that. But now you see how that might interfere because it will not generate that negative space there. Can I do it again? Right click. Remember, you can bring up this tool option. I can just repeat chamfer. I do not want that face. No, go away. I want that one. Will that let me do it? Oddly enough, now it will let you do it. So you can do a lot of these same operations in different things, meaning like, before I could, when I did the fillet, I was able to just select the whole top and it just translated that to all the edges. Sometimes the same tool will not work or a different tool will not work in the same way, but you can work around that. And yes, I know that there seems to be a lot of options to work around problems in Fusion. But sometimes you have to do this piecemeal and that sort. So if I were to go back, will it let me do it the whole thing now? No, because it doesn't like curved surfaces. What if I selected just that? Same. Chamfer does not like curved surfaces. Chamfer works on straight corners, straight edges. So that's pretty much the rundown of those little options. They're really neat tools to play with. They're really convenient. They're a great way to add additional features in what we're doing for this project. Down the way, they're a great way to add strength to your project just by simply eliminating sharp corners. So those are some of the features I wanted to show. We can play around, but at this point, I wanted to just pause the more formal video, and I wanted to spend more of this evening troubleshooting with anybody and just going over their projects. So I'm going to stop the recording, play around with these additional modifiers as you like, but I would recommend just sticking to chamfer and fillet for now. The others are definitely options, but they are relying on more complex things that we're dealing with this project. So play about and see what you come of it. So I'll stop recording.